Hello and welcome to Saints Carols 2020. We have got an amazing evening lined up for you and we cannot wait to share it with you.
We want you to put your screen full screen, turn up the music, get out the popcorn. We have an absolutely spectacular show in store for you tonight.
So without further ado, here is Saints Carols 2020.
Southampton, gateway to England and gateway to the world. A description that remains as true today as when Norman hands laid stone upon stone to form this imposing gateway.
The Christmas story is a story of hope. From prophecies recorded hundreds of years before the birth of Jesus to eyewitness accounts of his life, we have a story that shows us from generation to generation that we are never alone, that God is with us. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. So disperse the gloomy clouds of night, and death's dark shadows put to flight. Rejoice, rejoice, God with us.
Oh come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel. Oh come, thou day spring, come and cheer all spirits by thine advent here. Disperse the gloomy clouds of night, and death dark shadows put to flight. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Oh come, thou King of David, come and open wide our heavenly home. Make safe the way that leads on high, and close the path to misery. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel.
A reading from the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 1 to 7. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them.
Jesus, Lord, at thy birth.
A reading from the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 8 to 20. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Saviour has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favour rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told.
I want to start this particular Christmas message by telling you about my first kiss. I was a later developer in my youth, and so when it did come to my first kiss, I was in my teenage years, but for this kind of thing, probably not at the cool end. I had been on a couple of dates with this girl, and we'd been out for coffee, and then we transitioned into the mysterious possibilities of an evening date. My parents had gone out and I had cooked up a beautifully soggy pasta with cheddar cheese, and so the conditions really were perfect. After a few kind of nervous exchanges, the moment came, and then all of a sudden I was kissing a girl for real, and it was awkward. I couldn't quite tell whether I loved it or I hated it or somewhere in between or all of the above. And then my dad walks in. This kind of coming of age moment, long awaited for, and my dad walks in, and instead of kind of like play it cool and kind of give me a "nice one, son" nod and kind of back out smoothly, what he instead decided to do was say, "Jonathan, I think that's enough now." Heart broken, and needless to say, my first real kiss was followed up by my first very real breakup. You see, I had these like huge expectations, but the reality was far less than ideal. And I think this year we can relate to that, where we've had these expectations, some of our dreams and desires, what we had longed for this year, and just the reality is less than ideal. And particularly now at Christmas, the most wonderful time of the year, is just not great. No Christmas markets, no ice skating, no beers and sing-alongs. And so if you, like many of us, are feeling a bit underwhelmed with the festivities and the joy of this season, well, I think you're in good company. And actually, you're in the company of that very first Christmas itself. You know, one of the most remarkable things about the Christmas story is who is present at the birth of King Jesus. You have a terrified teenage mum giving birth in a cold and dirty shed. You have a young dad who is wondering, how on earth did I get myself into this situation? And then you have disheveled, homeless shepherds who have brought along their smelly livestock. This is not who you would expect to be present at the birth of the King. But the thing is about Jesus is that the more you are drawn into his reality, the more you realize he is not what you first thought. I had this idea when I was growing up that God was this kind of far off, distant, angry, judgy man in the sky that was kind of had a big stick and wanted to make me feel guilty. I didn't think God was interested in me or cared or knew anything about my reality. Let me ask you this. What's your idea of God? Maybe think about that for one moment. Maybe you think that God is an angry kind of trying to tell you how to live a good moral life kind of God. Maybe you think that God is just this nice idea, but nothing more than that. Or maybe for you, you don't think God is real at all. When I encountered God for the first time, everything changed. I realized that he wasn't distant, but he was interested. He wasn't angry, but he loved and he cared for me. He wasn't what I first thought or expected. And at Christmas, the story of God entering into the world in the form of Jesus is this message that God is with us. God is interested in us. God cares about us. And he becomes human. He takes on the human experience and becomes like one of us. He lives and he loves and he loses like one of us. He breathes and he shares laughs and he shares tears like one of us, entering into the human experience to show us how to live it. In his birth, we know that God is with us, and then in his life, we see a way to live life that brings freedom and life to the full. And then in his death, we are freed from the chaos and the mess of this world. And in his resurrection, he gives us hope and he gives us purpose. And so, although this has been a terrible year in so many ways, it has been hard, we can also have hope because we have seen Jesus at work amongst us. Through our online services, we have seen people's lives transformed. One lady wrote to us recently and said this: "I've tuned into online church throughout lockdown and I've discovered faith. I'm so thankful for inviting Jesus into my life, and now my husband is discovering faith too." You know, as a church community, we have together served 100,000 meals to the city's most vulnerable and at-risk individuals throughout this city. And we received this message recently. "Because of the kindness and generosity I've been shown, I've been able to make it through this difficult year. I've been given food, but more than that, I've been shown love." Showing the kindness, showing the goodness, showing the faithfulness of God in the midst of a terrible, terrible year. What the story of Christmas shows us is that Jesus enters into the mess of the world, and then hope is born. But he doesn't stop there. Jesus enters into the mess of our inner worlds, the beautiful, chaotic mess of our inner worlds, and hope is born there too. God cares about you. God is interested in you. God likes you. That's why he gives himself to us in Jesus. The gift of Jesus is to know that in the midst of your fears, in the midst of your pain, your suffering, your uncertainty, that Jesus is with you, bringing peace, bringing calm, bringing the gift of life despite the external storm. And to receive this gift, all you need to do is make a simple invitation. There's this beautiful line in the Christmas story that we have just heard that says this: Mary treasured up all of these things and pondered them in her heart. She was fearful. She was terrified. She didn't know what was happening, but she invited God into her inner world, and she knew peace and she knew calm. Mary made that invitation. The woman who wrote to us made that invitation, and you could make that invitation today. Do you need peace? Do you need hope? Or Jesus is Emmanuel, which means God with us. Why don't you invite God to be with you today?
A 1, 2, 3, 1.
Hey, I'm Georgia and I've been coming to St Mary's for just over a year now. So growing up, I had a really good family life and I was happy, and then I got to my teenage years and experienced some really difficult times at secondary school, and that caused me to become quite an anxious person. I would worry a lot. I wouldn't want to go out. I'd be worried what others thought of me, and I found it very difficult to find peace in anything. I was always on edge, whether I was at home or out and about. I could never find a sense of comfort and kind of calmness. And I had therapy and lots of different types of coping mechanisms that I tried, and they all helped to a certain extent, but I still remained this anxious worrier. During this time, one of my really good friends invited me to church, and I'd never been to church before, apart from for like weddings and christenings. But I wouldn't say I was a religious person or followed any kind of faith, or I didn't really have any of my own beliefs. And I thought, why not? So I came along to church, and I was so surprised with how I found my first time in church. I came into church that day feeling the anxious way that I'd always felt for so many years. Like, it was almost normal, it was all I'd really known. And when I was in church and was listening to worship and the talk that was happening that day, I just remember feeling so calm and peaceful. A sense of just my whole body just felt so calm, and I felt really content in that moment. And when I left, I just knew that I wanted more of that feeling, so I kept coming back. So after I came to church on that Sunday, I'd met a couple of other guys, and we went out for a coffee after, and they all said that I should come along to Alpha, which was on the Wednesday. So I kind of took the leap and thought, why not? And came along for the first Alpha session. I was really nervous because I knew we'd be kind of talking in smaller groups, so I was nervous to meet new people, but as soon as I arrived, I felt really, really comfortable and really, really welcome, and that sense of feeling welcome and almost like I belonged somewhere, I'd never felt that anywhere before. In a nutshell, Alpha is for anyone who's looking to explore faith or has like questions about faith. We all have those questions about is there something more to life than where we are at the moment, and those kind of big life questions. Alpha is the place to ask those, and the other main thing about Alpha is you just make such amazing friendships, and that's definitely one of the biggest parts for me, is that I made some really amazing friendships that are still going today, and I feel that they'll be friends for life. But as the weeks went on, I started to get different feelings, and that feeling of peace like in different situations, and I think it was January the 5th, well I know it was January the 5th, I believed in Jesus and in the story of Jesus. And from that day, I feel that was like the first step to getting to know who he was and what he, how he works in the world and in my life. And that day was amazing. I remember being in church, it was a Sunday service, and I remember the talk that John was giving. I felt that he was speaking directly to me, and I felt God speaking to me through the words that John was giving, and it was so powerful. My whole body was warm and tingly, and it was like that sense of peacefulness that I had on the first day I came to church, but like 10 times the intensity. And from that day I knew that I didn't want to ever live a life without Jesus. Since then, although this year has been really, really challenging, obviously for everybody because of COVID and all the other things that have gone on, for me, having God in my life and having that sense of direction has given me a focus during the storms, and I really feel that that has been what's gotten me through the tough times that there has been this year. So when I think about who I used to be before I came to know God, I remember the thoughts that went through my head on a daily basis were always, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I was always worried about bad things that could possibly happen in my life. But now I've got a relationship with Jesus, I feel that those thoughts are no more, and actually the way I think about things now is, so what if this happens or this happens? I've got God, and He will give me strength and give me everything I need to face whatever life throws at me. And when I think about my story and how I face life now, I know that God is with me.
Where can I go from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I go down to the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn or sail to the far side of the sea, you are there. Your hand will guide me. Even night is as light to you, for you are there. I am convinced that nothing, today or tomorrow, joy or sorrow, low or above, nothing could separate me from your love. In doubt, you are there. In isolation, you are close. Be it pandemics, injustice, or heartbreak, you are there. But how do I know it? What calls to me, causing certainty in chaos? A baby and a manger, in fragility and danger, born to welcome home the stranger. And if I need reminding, God incarnate in humankind, and all the mercy the world could ever need, wrapped in blankets amidst this unlikely scene. So from generation to generation, from age to age, this story is still experienced, relived, loved, shared. The Christmas story, Emmanuel, God with us.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for St. Mary's Carols tonight. I'm Hannah, and together with my husband John, we have the absolute privilege of leading St. Mary's Church.
We are going to be taking a collection right now, and our collection tonight is going to be going towards supporting the work of the Winter Night Shelter here in the city of Southampton. Our friends at Lighthouse International Church, together with a few other churches from around the city, are going to be in the coldest months this year, providing accommodation, support, food, and care and friendship to our street community. This is an amazing project that we want to support and get behind. So two ways that you can give to that. Firstly, you can give through our website. Everything that we receive today will go directly to that project, and the website is coming up beneath me here, stmaryschurch.org/Christmas, or alternatively right now, you can get your phone out and you can give via text. To give £5, text the word saints to the number 70470 and you can give £5 right now.
And to give £10, you can text saints to 70480 and that will donate £10. Thank you so much for your generosity. If you've enjoyed tonight, if something has moved you, you maybe want to find out a bit more about Jesus, we would love to invite you to Alpha. It's starting in January, and it is the absolute perfect place to come, ask the big questions of life with no judgment. Everyone is welcome, and we would love to see you there.
That's all from us. So the last thing to say is have an amazing Christmas. We love you, and we are sending you all of our best wishes from everyone here at St. Mary's.